Hello, dear students! Welcome to our virtual class. I hope you are as ready as our team to start learning and have fun. Before we start with our lesson, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever been so unfocused in class? Wherein you just feel these things. And all these things make you feel you don't want to learn? Worry no more. There is a use of technology in teaching. What do we mean by technology integration? It is a process of enhancing daily school learning practices with technology such as the computers, mobile devices, internet platforms, apps, and the like. Models for technology integration are meant to help the teacher effectively use technology in order to benefit their students' learning within an ever-changing world. This lesson will provide an overview of the most widely used technology integration models that help teachers better understand the process and goals of technology integration. The models we will explore will include the TPAC, the SUMMER, and RAT model.
Good day everyone, welcome to the first technological model in language teaching. In 21st century education, technology plays a very important role because it serves as an aid to different pedagogical practices among teachers, and it can also be a learning tool itself to students. In 2006, Punya Mishra and Matthew J. Queller introduced the TPAC model, which focuses on technological knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and content knowledge. These offer a productive approach to many of the dilemmas that teachers face in implementing educational technology in their classrooms. Now, let us unpack the TPAC model. So, how does TPAC work? First, you need to consider these three domains, mainly technological knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and content knowledge. Content knowledge is what the teachers know, pedagogical knowledge is how they teach, and technological knowledge is how technology is used. Moving on, for us to have a deeper understanding, let's have a closer look to these domains. First is the CK, or content knowledge. It is the what. It is basically the knowledge of teachers to the subject matter, be it in mathematics, science, social studies, language arts, and many more. CK, in other words, contains all the facts, concepts, and theories. Next is the PK, or pedagogical knowledge. It is the how. This describes the teacher's knowledge of the practices, processes, and methods regarding teaching and learning. As a generic form of knowledge, PK encompasses the purposes, values, and aims of education and may apply to more specific areas including the understanding of student learning styles, classroom management skills, lesson planning, and assessments. The next one is PCK, or the intersection of pedagogy and content. This describes the teacher's knowledge regarding foundational areas of teaching and learning, including curricula development, student assessment, and reporting results. PCK focuses on promoting learning and on tracing the links among pedagogy and its supportive practices, and much like CK, will also differ according to grade level and subject matter. In all cases though, PCK seeks to improve teaching practices by creating stronger connections between the content and the pedagogy used to communicate it. For example, the subject-verb agreement. So, how are you going to teach the lesson? Is it through lecture type, through video presentations, or through engaging activities. The next one is TK, or the technological knowledge. This describes teachers' knowledge of and ability to use various technologies, technological tools, and associated resources. TK concerns understanding EdTech, considering its possibilities for a specific subject area or classroom, learning to recognize when it will assist or impede learning, and continually learning and adapting to new technology offerings. The next one is TCK, or the intersection of technology and content. This describes teachers' understanding of how technology and content can both influence and push against each other. TCK involves understanding how the subject matter can be communicated via different EdTech offerings and considering which specific EdTech tools might be best suited for specific subject matters or classroom. For example, let's go back to the subject-verb agreement. So how are you going to enhance the content of the lesson? So you may provide them links or videos for supplementary lessons. And the last one is TPK, or the intersection of technology and pedagogy. This describes teachers' understanding of how particular technologies can change both the teaching and learning experiences by introducing new pedagogical affordances and constraints. Another aspect of TPK concerns understanding how such tools can be deployed alongside pedagogy in ways that are appropriate to the discipline and the development of the lesson at hand. So, when you are going to teach, what are the specific tools you need to use? So, for example, you may use laptop, LCD projector, television, and the like. TPAC is the end result of these various combinations. At the dotted circle around it represents the context where the TPAC can be applied to. In order for teachers to make effective use of the TPAC framework, they should layer in the technology to their content and pedagogical practices. That's all for the TPAC framework. I hope you have learned something. Up next is the computer-assisted and mobile-assisted language learning, to be presented by Kisha Pascua.
Computer-assisted language learning. Here's a short history of computer-assisted language learning, or CALL. CALL is defined as the search for and study of applications of the computer in language teaching and learning. The name is a fairly recent one. The existence of CALL in the academic literature has been recognizable for about the last 30 years. The subject is interdisciplinary in nature, and it has evolved out of early efforts to find ways of using the computer for teaching or for instructional purposes across a wide variety of subject areas. With the weight of knowledge and breadth of application in language learning, it is ultimately resulting in a more specialized field of study. It has been made possible by the invention and subsequent development in the computer. As a result, the nature of CALL at any particular time is to a large degree a reflection of the level of development of the technology. In the early days, when developers had access only to large mainframe computers, they needed to know a machine language to program the computer, and they tended towards numerical applications because such computations were more directly compatible with the workings of the computer. The history of CALL is often divided into three phases. The first one is the structural CALL. Starting in the 50s and developing through the 70s, we have what's called structural or behaviorist CALL by Warshauer. This marked the era of stimulus and response. The computer prompts the student with a question, which is the stimulus, and the students give an answer, which is the response, by filling in the blanks or choosing from a given set of choices. The second one is the communicative call. In the 80s and 90s came communicative call. The communicative approach to language teaching came into being as a reaction to the grammar translation and audiolingual methods. This time, instead of teaching the language, its rules, syntax, phonemes, and morphemes, teachers found ways to provide opportunities for students to actually use the language. They gave students tasks that can only be completed by using language. Communication and interaction were important. The last one is the integrative call. First came the drills of the structural approach, then followed the skills in the communicative approach. Critics of the second phase say that the skills taught may be limited to the number and types of situations that may be presented to students. There needs to be an integration of the knowledge presented in the first phase as well as the communicative skills of the second phase. So we have the integrative phase, which blended the virtues of the previous decades into a technology that, for its part, has found its stride. The development of the internet and hypermedia that can integrate video and audio streaming, graphic interactive content, and virtual worlds have redefined how learning is done. With today's technology, you can develop speaking, listening, reading, and writing skills concurrently and in the comfort of one's private space and schedule. An example of integrative call is FluentU, which takes real-world videos like music videos, movie trailers, news, and inspiring talks and turns them into personalized language learning lessons. FluentU is a language learning platform that uses real-world videos and interactive subtitles to create an immersive learning experience. So here are some of the advantages of call. And the disadvantages of call. So that's it for computer-assisted language learning or call. Now, may we move on to mobile-assisted language learning or MAL. Here's a short history of MAL. What is mobile learning? According to Kukulska-Holm and Traxler 2005, the possibilities opened up by portable, lightweight devices that are small enough to fit in a pocket or the palm of one's hand. Typical examples are mobile phones, smartphones, palm tops and PDAs, tablet PCs, laptop computers, and personal media players. MAL is a language learning that is assisted or enhanced through the use of a handheld mobile device. It is also beneficial for language learners for many reasons. MAL is a subset of both mobile learning and computer-assisted language learning. As technology continues to improve and evolve, so do methods of language learning. A popular method today is mobile-assisted language learning or MAL. This approach involves using smartphones and/or other mobile devices to learn a second language. First of all, the average language learner has a mobile phone. Over 90% of people in developed countries have a mobile phone, compared to only 30% who have desktop computers. In addition, most people take their phone wherever they go. This enables them to study anytime, anywhere. And assuming their language learning apps and activities are enjoyable, they'll be motivated to continue studying outside of class. There are numerous smartphones apps that can be used for language learning. Some apps were created specifically for this purpose. Others are educational apps that can be used to teach any subject, including languages. And finally, social media apps were created for a general audience, but can also be adapted for language learners. For example, teachers can have learners to use an instant messaging app to message each other in the target language. Teachers can also have students send text messages that target a grammar point covered in class. Learners can also use social media sites to observe authentic content in real-world situations and practice social interaction in the target language. Learners can also use mobile-generated media, such as photos, videos, and audio recordings, to produce their own content, making the study of the target language more interesting and relevant to their lives, thereby increasing their motivation and improving their skills. So here are some advantages of MAL. Also, the disadvantages of MAL. When using MOL, especially with mobile phones, teachers should create several short lessons rather than one or two long ones. Learners are used to consuming brief amounts of information quickly on their phones. In addition, only a short amount of text can be displayed at once on a phone's small screen. It's helpful, therefore, to break up lessons into 3 to 5 minute chunks or micro lessons. These micro lessons will also benefit students with short attention spans. So that's it for mobile assisted language learning.
Hi, I am Angelica. Most people call me Ice. I will be discussing a mind-blowing topic. I say mind-blowing because talks on robots, AIs have always been so fascinating, in my opinion at least. Fasten your seatbelts as we journey the possibilities of having robots as educational assistants in language learning. But before that, let me pose a question, something worthy to ponder. As a language major student, or simply as a language learner, have you ever envisioned having robots as guides or tools in language learning or learning your target language? Let me give you 5 seconds to think about it. 3, 2, and 1. Cool. It seems kinda unfathomable, right? At first thinking. But because of the rise of the fast or the advent of technology and its integration in education, robot-learner interaction seems possible and achievable already. It's time for the takeoff. Now, what does RALL stand for? Robot Assisted Language Learning. It is defined as the use of robots to teach people language expression or comprehension skills, such as speaking, writing, reading, or listening. To better understand the concept of RAL, I decided to look for researches, /articles, /journals that can further demonstrate and explain the integration of RAL. Let's find out how this works by analyzing these 2 case studies subsumed in the article titled Robot Assisted Language Learning Through Games, a comparison of 2 case studies by Omar Mubin, Suleiman Shahid, and Christoph Bartnick. Obviously, on the left side is a yellow cat named iCat, the robot for case study 1, and on the right side is Mindstorm, a Lego build technique. Now, let's jump head on to the aim of this study or this article. I'm sorry. Alright. The aim of this study, or the aim of these studies, revolve around teaching students robot interaction language, or ROILA, and an artificial language designed for talking to robots and optimized for speech recognition. By the way, the paper's goal, or the goal of this research is to advocate RAL through games, as evident in the title. Just a quick notice, I will not go full blast or jump to the whole research in details. I will further explain later on why is this. Now, this part represents the research methodology. This next slide shows the difference between the 2 case studies. Here's a summary of the constructs and attributes of each robot. Take note, both case studies focus on learning the artificial language, ROILA, artificial language named ROILA, with the help of a certain robot in a gaming scenario. By the way, again, ROILA stands for Robot Interaction Language. The reason for these differences and manipulation of certain constructs is to ascertain what aspects are better for RAL using games. Now, I'd like you to take a look at the second column. The second column includes the constructs. On its left and right sides are the corresponding attributes of each robot. The first one deals with the type of robot. The 2 robots were distinct, obviously. iCat of case study 1 is more anthropomorphic, meaning it's a thing. It's not a human. It's a non-human that does carry human-like traits or characteristics. Obviously, it has a cat-like embodiment, while Mindstorm is built using Lego technique that can take on different representations. The second one shows the location of learning. As stated, in case study 1, learning takes place outside normal classrooms, while case study 2 was executed as an integral part of the curriculum. Now, thirdly, we have their teacher participation. Case 1 being extracurricular in nature, teachers' participation came a lot less. No participation at all, unlike in case 2, where the teacher acts as a mentor slash facilitator during students' interaction with Mindstorm. Fourthly, as regards curriculum linkage, Case 1 is not tied back to any existing curriculum, unlike Case Study 2, which was conducted within science class. Second to the last, we have there the role of the robot. Concerning the robot's participation, ICAP would participate as a co-learner to help the students in verbal articulations by discussing the choices which the children could take in the game. Meanwhile, Mindstorm serves more of a tool, or its function is more of a tool in the language learning process, as what the children would say would affect the robot's spatial state. Lastly, how's the collaboration going on so far? Well, children would interact with ICAT individually, whereas Mindstorm, there is an obvious robot learner interaction in case study 2 within several groups at the same time. Now, we've reached the discussion and conclusion parts. You might be wondering how fast the pace is. I'll explain in a while. Let's first see the discussion and the takeaways included. The results from the SASE questionnaire allowed us to interpret the language interaction experience of the students across the 2 case studies and extrapolating that to their language learning experience. Our results showed that case study 2 achieved much more positive feedback from the children. We can now speculate why this may have happened. In case study 2, students may have been more proficient in learning Roila and or enjoyed the learning activities, which translated to them ranking Roila better than English on the SASE questionnaire. In general, all students enjoyed the practical part of the lessons the most, i.e., when they could talk to and play with the robots in, as they call it, the funny secret language. Several students appreciated and enjoyed this relatively new style of learning using a game-based approach and stated that this was something that they had not encountered before in their language learning classes. Great, you've come this far. The reason why I didn't go full blast tackling/dissecting the article is that I just want to make a point. What's the point, you ask? This is the point, here it is. I just want to show that RAL, or Robot Assisted Language Learning, is possible. This utterance is based on the case studies that we have tapped. Results show that utilizing games to push for RAL was generally successful. Recommendations on how RAL should be set up to ensure maximum pedagogical benefit. Now, the question is, does it work? It works. Finally works. I shall end this robot-assisted language learning topic by reiterating that technological advances are already well accepted, integral part of enhancing our education systems, not just in technical education, the maths and sciences, but also in non-technical such as language learning. Welcome aboard. Hi, it's me again, Angelica Isabelle. Quickly, I'll be sharing with you ideas and examples of this approach in teaching English language called Task-Based Language Teaching, or TBLT. First off, what is Task-Based Language Teaching? TBLT is a pedagogical framework for the theory and teaching of second or foreign languages. When we say pedagogy, obviously it relates or it deals with teaching. What this essentially means is TBLT is one of the many methods in teaching second language/foreign language. For instance, I am a Filipino. My L1 or my first language is Tagalog, and my second language is English. This is just an example. In school, teachers apply various methods or different kinds of approaches to teach learners the target language, and in this case, the target language is English. Furthermore, TBLT means teaching with, learning with, and assessing with tasks, not isolated grammar forms, in order to promote functionality in the language. We can say from this definition that the TBLT Contrary with notions on traditional assessments, i.e. pen and paper tests slash identification exams, etc., TPLT focuses more on learners' communicative competence. That is to say, application of knowledge to a communicative context or real-world scenario is the core idea or purpose or the end goal. With everything that I've said, it's easy to detect that TBLT or task-based language teaching is an offshoot of the communicative approach. Now, what is the fundamental question to ask in this presentation? The fundamental question is, how does TBLT work? Let's study these three steps. First one is the pre-task activity. We have here the introduction to topic and task, and number two, the task cycle, task planning report. And lastly, we have the language focus and feedback. And here there is the analysis and practice. Pre-task activity. Obviously, the teacher will present the topic and the tasks that are expected to be done by the learners. It is the stage where the teacher will give an intro or review of the grammatical concepts, vocabulary, etc. The review or intro will sure benefit the children or the learners in accomplishing the tasks that will be given to them afterwards. Next, we have the task cycle, or this is the actual task cycle. The students will have to complete tasks either in groups or pairs. After the teacher will set up the task, or after acting as a facilitator in the process of setting up the tasks, the learners will then accomplish the task either by pair or as a group. And later on, they will report back. I mean, whatever findings they will find or they will discover will be reported to in front of the class or with the teacher as well. Obviously, the teacher's role will be reduced to that of an observer or facilitator. The reporting part may be pictured as the post-task review. In here, they are given the chance to present their findings as I have mentioned earlier, be it in a PowerPoint presentation, video, writing, role play, etc. Lastly, we have the language focus and feedback. On the analysis portion, the teacher will emphasize the most relevant parts in the text and shall let the learners analyze it. And lastly, practice. Teacher conducts practice. He or she will select language areas to practice, taking into account the needs of the learners and the results during the task and report phases. I would say that the giving of relevant assignments would take place here. If not, this part is for the instructors, or it's for the teacher's introspection of what had been or how did things go based on the tasks and the reporting phases. Now that we have gained some ideas about how TPLT is, let's take time to digest the principles that we need to adhere or follow to be successful in in translating or making TBLT in reality. In putting TBLT in reality. First principle, TBLT makes use of the target language to carry meaningful tasks. Again, I made mention about TBLT being an offshoot of communicative approach. This means that there is the intense or the encouragement to proper perform or carry meaningful tasks using the target language. So it's not much, grammar here is not that critical much. Doesn't focus, or TBLT doesn't focus much on grammatical forms, structures, etc. What's important here is the context and the ability of the students or the communicative competence that the students have in order to carry or do or perform meaningful tasks using English being the target language. 2. There is communicative goal and task is measured by the outcome. As suggested in the title of the approach, it's task-based language teaching. So obviously, the task is measured by the outcome, and there's also a communicative goal. Third one, promotes John Dewey's concept of learning by doing. So I'll mention later some examples of this TBLT, and hopefully we will see how this concept is being a part of it. Fourth, we have student-centered, focus on the learner. Yes, TBLT or the focus of TBLT, it's not teacher-centered, it's more of a learner-centered because this approach highly takes into account the learner himself. 1, 2, 3, 4, and fifth, it reinforces collaboration and cooperative learning. Because in school, if the teacher would do task-based language teaching, expect that there are a lot of group activities because this is where most likely role plays would come in, or conversations, dialogues, and these examples are authentic assessments in which the learners could apply what they have learned. And also, these are good examples of communicative tasks as well. And lastly, real world activities / contexts are highly considered. I could say that this is really the heart of PBLT, taking into account contexts as part of the communication process. Some examples would be, let me give you a few examples. In school, regarding task-based language teacher, the teacher can do like a role plays about the learners. If they want to, for instance, if the learners would want to go for a travel, then they could create plans, and through role plays or dialogues, they could exchange their ideas on on their plans, on what are they going to eat, what place, and the time, the travel, etc. Those basic, the fundamental things that you can see there is actually the essential things that one should note if one would decide doing TBLT or task-based language teaching. Now, what do we need to remember? Of course, we have to remember the most significant points or the salient details of TBLT. But the most important thing to note is that the main point or the heart of TLB. Now, what is it? What's the main point? You know what is it? Okay, it's not necessarily, TBLT is not necessarily concerned on grammatical forms, as I made mention earlier. It's more of simply having or being able to use the target language in carrying meaningful tasks. This is what matters most in task-based language teaching, not not purist or not really being crucial or critical when it comes to grammar, but being able to do it but being able to apply knowledge in a communicative context or in the real world scenario. Alright everyone, I hope you learned a thing or two, all for the love of learning. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Moving on, let us now have the second to the last type of technology model in language teaching, which is the SUMMER model. SUMMER is an acronym that stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. So every day, teachers are designing various activities in targeting the higher order thinking skills of students in order for them to engage in rich learning experiences. But integrating technology adds a whole new layer to teaching and learning. The question is, how can technology transform your learning design? In light of this model, Dr. Ruben Puentedura developed the SUMMER model as a way for teachers to evaluate how they are going to incorporate technology into their instructions of practice. So we can use SUMMER to reflect upon how you're integrating technology into your classroom. Is it an active substitution, augmentation, modification, or redefinition? So the model includes a dotted line that represents the threshold where you shift from using technology to enhance learning to using it to transform learning. Transforming learning promotes higher order of thinking skills, such as analyzing, evaluating, and creating, which are undeniably essential in the learning standards of 21st century learning. So, how can we teach above the line? Let's take a look at some examples of the classroom tasks that evolved through the lens of SUMMER. In substitution, technology acts as a tool substitute with no functional change to the task. Let's take short story writing as an example. What if you had students write a story using the word processing program like a Microsoft Word? In this case, students are substituting a pen or a pencil for a typed story. The task is the same, no real change in student engagement. In augmentation, technology still substitutes but with some functional improvement. What if you took the same short story writing assignment and had students use a word processing program? They could use features such as spell check and tools for formatting. Again, the short story writing task is the same, but the technology augments it with enhanced productivity. In modification, technology allows for significant task redesign. Take the same short story writing assignment and have students use Google Docs to write their stories. The students then share these stories with peers and provide real-time feedback. Here, technology has significantly modified the original task by introducing the benefits of student collaboration. At the top stage, redefinition, technology allows for the creation of entirely new tasks that were previously inconceivable. What if students transform their short stories into multimedia productions? After creating, for example, storyboards, students film scene, edit clips, and add music, they can publish the video and receive feedback from different people. In connection to this, technology redefines short story writing activity to include the four C's in media, which are creation, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. So overall, the moment you go up higher and move to the top through the summer model, the more transformative the technology task becomes, both in terms of multimedia content creation and in terms of communication with the rest of the world. So, to give you more details about the last technology model, may we now proceed to the discussion of Mr. Jonathan Corpuz. Jonathan, the spot is yours now.
RAT, or also known as Replacement, Amplification, Transformation. This was developed by John Hoggs and is a model that allows teachers to self-assess their integration of technology in the classroom. This is also a framework that is similar to substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition, or known as SAMR, but a little simpler. Replacement. Replacement refers to the use of technology that in no way changes instructional practices. The technology is simply a different means to the same instructional end. Take a look at the example. The traditional learning is then replaced with the new mode. However, the content is still the same. Instead of using books as a learning material, the use of technology like laptop replaced the modality. Amplification. Amplification is when task remains fundamentally the same, but the use of technology increases efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity. In the example given, technology integrates into different means by maximizing what it can contribute to teaching and learning process. Students and teachers now can work with technology as easy and accessible as it amplifies them with its primary use. They get to immerse themselves as well, like creating presentations, writing in MS Words, and the like. Transformation. Transformation happens when technology reinvents aspects of instruction, learning, or curriculum in new and effective and inventive ways. Take a look at the example. It already transformed everything into digital. In this case, teaching and learning can only be possible through online resources. Everything on this phase is technology-driven. If teachers transform students' interest into technology, they will be more engaged and love learning. In this way, it would promote a student-centered teaching.